Well, I first arrived in the department in 1978, and it was a very rainy day in January, and no one was there. What I hadn't realised was the lack of laboratory facilities in the department. When I was being interviewed and when I was being shown around the department, somehow that lack of laboratory facilities never showed itself up. And I came from a very laboratory-rich environment at Edinburgh University. So all the projects that the students were doing, practically all of the projects that students were doing, there was one very large three-field tachistoscope, which a student called John Groger had used for his final honours project. Most of the theses were interacting with the community. They were really applied theses. Now, for some reason in those years, we had the exams took place in summer, but the hand-in for the final honours dissertations wasn't until the end of August, as far as I can remember. There was some rationale to this, because it was considered to be a heavy course in some ways. What it meant was that the students were around all of the summer in the June, July and August months, interacting with the staff members quite heavily, as students do for their final honours practicals, final honours theses. But also, all the staff were young people that were around their 30s. And so the staff were very, very sociable. We had parties, we used to go to each other's houses for dinner. And in the summer of '79, I had rented a bungalow out in Bishopstown, which had been altered a bit by the landlord, and had an enormous back room with a big concrete floor. And it was almost by accident that it came to pass that on Tuesday evenings we would go for drinks, and there would be members of staff having drinks, students having drinks, other people that we knew would join us, and then when the pub closed, we'd all off to JK's place, and we would make some food. There was always some easy student food to be made, and we'd bring bottles, and we would dance and drink and generally merrify ourselves until the wee hours of the morning. That was every Tuesday night after term had officially finished. And those were the most wonderful times, because it was the staff members were friends. And the students were hardly older than we were, hardly younger than we were. You know, we were in our 30s, the students were like 23, 24. It was such, and there were some mature students there, it was such a great mix. And the conversations we'd have, and the fun we would have at the parties. And the nice thing about it was a regular Tuesday night in the summer. And so other people who knew us in the university got wind of JK's parties on Tuesday nights after the pubs had closed, and we found those dropping in by as well, maybe after midnight or something. I remember on numerous occasions dancing until 4 o'clock in the morning. Of course, in those days, at parties, we didn't sit around and talk. We danced. Well, certainly at JK's parties, we danced. We danced and drank. I had a good collection of records, and friends would bring tapes that we could dance to. And if you wanted to talk, there was a room you could talk in the kitchen. But basically, there was this enormous room full of dancing people. It was a wonderful memory to notice that the dawn was creeping up and we were still dancing. And we had some very good theses in those days as well, because everybody was very clever, and we were all more or less the same age, we had the same concerns, and there was a lot more interaction between staff and students. I think in those early days of the department, as I remember them, the two things that remain in my memory are, first of all, how social the staff were with each other. We were actually close friends. And secondly, how easily we integrated with the students. The students were on very good terms with all of us, especially the final honour students.